Are we live? We are live.
We
Great.
should be live. That's right.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joanne Rempel, and I'm one of the owners and founders of Pure Glow Natural Skin Rejuvenation Center. And I am so excited to be able to welcome Dr. Erin, who is one of our naturopathic doctors at Nature Doctors, but as well does a lot of educating both of our team and of our clients, our patients, and our general public on natural skin wellness as well as natural body wellness. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Dr. Erin, talking about your fall body. And when I think about this, I get all excited because I think, the seasons change. We talk about creating, sometimes we get into a pattern. But I notice, that our bodies change, our cravings for food changes. I certainly know my skin changes in the fall. So I'm sure you're going to enlighten us on why some of this happens.
Yes, I am. Yes.
So welcome and thank you for being here with us.
I am happy to be here again. This is a wonderful monthly ritual that we have, and I look forward to it each month. So Joanne and I were contemplating this topic, and we were kind of moving a step further, hopefully in a more somewhat hopeful direction from our conversation last time. And not that there was lack of hope in the conversation last time, but we talked about burnout. We talked about the sort of state of despair that people are feeling or were feeling, kind of moving out of summer, moving into fall. And despair, just for definition's sake, it's a feeling of a lack of hope. And someone else gave me the word of languishing, which is a lack of vitality or suffering from being forced to remain in an unpleasant place or situation. And I think normally by the end of summer, we're feeling kind of rejuvenated. We're ready for the fall. We're ready to fall back into those routines. And there was just a sort of a cohesive feeling of despair or languishing that I was feeling personally, and also had talked to a number of people who were feeling that way too. And so today we want to bring the conversation a little bit further, but more into how we can move out of that state. And so Joanne asked me sort of a series of questions as we were kind of contemplating this topic. And so I want to go through those questions that she asked me and use those as jumping points for this conversation today. So I'm going to go through those questions. And maybe I'll name a couple of them now, but then I want to give you a concept just to anchor the conversation in first, and we'll kind of come back to it every once in a while as we're talking today. So some of the questions that Joanne had asked me, what does fall look and feel like for you? So, she may have been asking me personally, but I will probably give you some personal pieces around that. And maybe Joanne can kind of fall in or like step in and mention a couple of things as well. How do we create healthy fall habits and celebrate good health? And then what are the signs of good health? I added a question of how, well, she brought this up, but like, how do we work through the mindset of not doing enough, being healthy enough, feeling good enough? And how do we, what are those effects of that kind of mindset on our health, and how do we move through that?
Right.
What are some good fall foods to incorporate into your nutrition this season? And going back to our skincare, because that's what we love, is to how do we move through this new season? Maybe feeling a bit like the summer kind of, there's more summer sun. How did our skin wear through the summer, and how can we kind of transition into fall as far as healthy, radiant skin is concerned? So those were some of the questions. So I wanted to kind of pull them together into a cohesive idea, also bringing in the concepts that we talked about last time, because some of us might still be feeling some of that despair. Sure. And so sometimes it's hard to go, I don't really know if I have the energy or motivation to talk about my fall body. I don't understand this concept. I'm still, well, this is where I want to bring in my concept, but I'm still in despair. I'm still languishing. And so I need some support to get me beyond that so I can actually engage in this conversation. But I wanted to bring up, and I'm going to share my screen, but I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen, because some of my screens are a little messy. I don't want you to see that part.
I get you.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share this. So tell me that you see a triangle.
Yes.
or like a pyramid or
Yeah.
triangle. Yeah, I guess it's 2D. Okay. So many of you probably have heard of the concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is that familiar to you, Joanne?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So that's what this is. And this is his like basic first version. And so I'm going to start with this. I won't go through like the whole history of how he developed his theory and how it evolved over time, but we'll talk a little bit about the main pieces. So can you see my cursor if I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure can.
So here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are 5 tiers. And so we've got the physiological needs at the bottom. We have safety needs, belonging and love needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. So there's 5 needs, and the needs in the lower down hierarchy must be satisfied before an individual can attend to the needs on the higher tiers. So the reason this popped into my head is because these bottom 3 tiers, the physiological needs, safety needs, and belonging and love needs, have been really disrupted in the last 18 months for a lot of people.
You're right. You're right.
It occurred to me that some of our basic needs. Now, granted, we are privileged where we are. We are on Facebook, watching a Facebook Live, talking about skincare. Like there's definitely a certain element of privilege that we're coming from. So I'm acknowledging that. But even so, these may still be there to some extent, but the foundation is rattled. It's crooked. It's a little shooken, right? Or shaken, whatever the word is. So it's a little bit crumbly. It's still there. Like I think for the most part, it's there, but it's been threatened a little bit in the last 18 months for a lot of people. And so maybe we were working on some of these esteem things and self-actualization. And if going back to Maslow's law, that we need to have these bottom tiers need to be satisfied and firm before we can achieve the higher tiers. I think that's why we start to maybe question some bigger concepts in life right now, because our foundation is a little wonky.
Right. A little shaky.
It's a little shaky. And so these lower tiers, just to give you a little bit more understanding on it, these 4 lower tiers are all deficiency needs. When they are deficient, our motivation is to increase those things. And once they've increased, our motivation decreases again in those areas. And then we move on to the next area. And this top tier is a tier of growth, meaning that the more we achieve in that area, the more we get motivated to keep going. So, if you've ever been into personal development, it's a bit addicting, right? Or addictive. Like we start and we just want to keep going, as opposed to, generally speaking, when we eat, our hunger decreases and our motivation to eat decreases, ideally, right? In an ideal situation.
Right.
But what I want to focus on today is really these bottom 3 tiers and how we can rebuild those tiers in this season of fall. And what are the best strategies in this particular season in terms of kinds of foods that we might want to, eat during this season. What kind of rest would be helpful to engage in so that we can start rebuilding those lower tiers of that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so that, we can start moving back into those deeper layers of self-actualization that some of us would like to get back to, but it feels way too lofty right now. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love where you're going with this.
So I just want to tease or just give a bit more context into each of those layers. So let's just physiological needs. I have some things listed there: food, water, warmth, rest. It includes simple things as air as well, shelter, clothing. These are some other examples I found: warmth, sex, sleep. Mm-hmm. So those are our basic physiological needs. We're going to come back to those. Then there's our safety needs. So people like order. We like predictability and control. Mm-hmm. And again, that has been disrupted during the last 18 months. And so we feel a bit insecure in that area. This can include things like emotional security, financial security, social stability, health, and well-being. So that's those safety needs. Just in case we want a few more examples of some of these.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
next tier is the love and belonging. So we have emotional needs for interpersonal relationships, connectedness, trust, acceptance. We can think of our own, maybe our own social circles were not as intact during the pandemic because we were physically distancing, hopefully not socially distancing, but physically distancing. And maybe there's been some mistrust with all of the information that we've received over the last 18 months. Sometimes it hasn't been congruent because science changes and evolves, but it can kind of feel like, who do I trust? What information, which media outlet am I supposed to trust? So there can be a bit of a mistrust also that's been disrupted now, in this time. And then moving to that next level of esteem needs, there's our self-worth, our sense of accomplishment and respect. And it starts with other people respecting us and believing in us. And then we believe in ourselves and it builds our self-esteem.
Right.
And then the self-actualization, sort of the realization of a person's our full potential, self-fulfillment, seeking personal growth, and our peak experience. And that's where, as a naturopathic doctor, that's where I want to see people being able to engage in their health in a really big way. But we can't do that unless those lower tiers are intact and we feel secure in those areas.
Right. And Dr. Aaron, as I'm listening to you now, it really makes me think and realize that you said something that was really, we are in a, we have first world problems.
Yes.
Let's face it, right? We are a privileged society. I like your words better than mine, but we did, I think, from running a business during COVID and working with people in a very close way, people have felt that safety being shaken for them, right? So,
Mhm.
right in saying those basic needs are being challenged for people. So it's really hard for us to how we get up to that, top tier where we can actually get back into self-actualization when we're struggling with that safety mode, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It keeps us in fight or flight.
Right. So then, as you said in our last Facebook Live, that really keeps our cortisol levels high. We're in that state of despair, as you put. So I really like this. This really kind of brings really brings the last session and this session home as to where, some of us are fitting or where we're not fitting, right?
Mhm.
Or
And why it matters.
Why it matters. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be easy to look at someone else's situation, maybe even in another country, and say, oh, well, they have it worse than I do, but why do I feel this way? I shouldn't feel this way.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to acknowledge someone else's pain or suffering, but if your needs aren't being met either, you're going to feel it too. And it might be on a bit of a different level, but it's still important. This is why it's important.
Right. Absolutely.
And, going back to Maslow's theory that we can, he was at the very beginning of when he was developing this, he was very adamant that we move through that there needs to be solid ground beneath, like each tier needs to be solid before you can move through the net to the next layer. He's acknowledged, in various different iterations of his theory that we can move between these different layers, which is why I think something like, someone maybe really pre-COVID may have been at that peak self-actualization and then back down to feeling that despair because something else was compromised in their hierarchy of needs. So there can be a life circumstance that can cause us to fluctuate between the tiers, and we can be multi-motivated to kind of move through multiple tiers at once, and move between the tiers a little bit more fluidly than what he initially developed in his theory.
Right.
And just to round it out, he did add a couple of other things in these. I remember I talked about these being deficiency needs. He added in there cognitive needs, so that need for knowledge and understanding and curiosity. He added aesthetic needs,
Right.
so an appreciation and search for beauty, balance, and form, which I thought was also perfect for our conversation. So there is an aesthetic part. I have flowers behind me in the corner for that reason, because they bring in a beautiful aroma and a beautiful, it adds to the scenery and my workspace. It makes me more productive. So there is an aesthetic need.
Right.
Maybe it's hair and makeup and
Exactly.
beauty.
And I think so often, one of the things we talk a lot about at Pure Glow is when you feel beautiful. Beauty is not just an outward expression, right? It really is it's something that we internalize. And when we feel beautiful, we actually, doesn't matter if we're wearing jeans and our hair's not done, we have a way of acting when we feel true to ourselves. And that's really what beauty is really beginning to accept who we are, where we are at this moment in time. And our outward expression will always, emulate that, right? So yeah, I can see how that really comes in and why Maslow would incorporate it, because I believe it's a truly emotional expression, right? And it
Yeah.
really, it frames our construct of who we are and how we see the world.
Yeah, exactly. And then just one last thing before we dive into how do we get back to developing that foundation. Just on top of self-actualization, he also added transcendent needs. So things like spiritual connection, religious connection, it could be science, but that's sort of like next level beyond self-actualization. So just life,
Yes.
the growth continues.
Right.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Actually, is it helpful to have that visual there while I'm speaking, or?
No, I think if you came back to full screen, that'd be great.
That's better. Yeah. Okay. Let me just do that. Okay.
Great.
So let's talk about, I want to answer those questions now that Joanne asked. I want to come back to them because now we have some context and we can understand why they're important. So what does fall look and feel like to you? And maybe I could have put these in the order of hierarchy. That was just the first question that you had asked, or that it came up in the Instagram. Anyways, it was the first question that I have listed here. There could be an aesthetic piece to that. Like, to me, fall feels cozy, and cozy is my favorite feeling. My mom just bought me this mug called, it says warm and cozy. So like, that is my absolute favorite feeling. It makes me feel secure and safe. I love fall sweaters. I love the colors of fall. They actually, one of my favorite things to do right now is to go on a walk in my neighborhood. And there's a particular street that backs onto the golf course by my house. And there's vines that go on the fence. And I love to watch them change to red, because there's not a lot of leaves in Winnipeg or trees in Winnipeg that turn to red. And so when I find red leaves and they kind of just pop, I find it so satisfying, and just, it pleases my aesthetic senses. And so I love to walk down that street on a regular basis and just see how the green is turning to red. So those are some of my fall favorites. The other thing too is, it doesn't happen in my current home, but as a kid, I remember the smell of the furnace when it would kick in for the first time. And that smell, and that is actually one of the senses that brings us back to our memories and an emotional state, what for good or for bad, I suppose. But that smell of the furnace kicking in is something that brings me back to my childhood, which is also personally a very cozy feeling.
Right.
So those are some of the, like, what does fall look and feel like to me? That's what it looks and feels like. It also feels like getting back into routine. And we talked about last time about how there is a sense of freedom that comes along with routine and schedules. And I like that. I feel more free, actually, once I get back into my routine.
Right. Absolutely. And I agree. And I think fall for me really kind of also brings around the fact that, and I love what you talked about with the leaves, but change is coming, right? Change is coming. And whether we embrace winter or we don't embrace winter, there is still an anticipation of change. And that's really, I love what you said about, getting into some of the things that make you feel good and smell. Again, I agree with you. For me, it's like cinnamons and fall colors. I mean, those are the things that draw me back into that fall mood. And what it does for my skin as well. I know that I've got to change, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought up cinnamon. Cinnamon is also one of my favorite smells. that is something that's really can be really powerful. This might be the easiest access point for someone, is to bring a scent into their space that makes them feel what they want to feel. For me, it's cozy. Like, and so it's like cinnamon, clove, like those kind of Christmassy pumpkin spice type of smells. I love to bring that into my space. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel cozy, which is again addressing those hierarchy of needs.
Right.
And bringing a bit of beauty into it as well, that aesthetic as well. That's an easy thing to do. You know, find your local essential oil distributor or go to Costco. They sell them at Costco in a pack of 3, as long as the scents resonate with you, and bring a smell into your space that brings you back, maybe even to a time where you felt safe. Maybe it's your mother's perfume or a lotion that she used to wear. I know my mom will talk about this Jergens lotion that she remembers her grandmother using, and it like reminds her of her grandmother each time she smells it. But bringing a scent into your space can be really, it can bring you back to a safe place.
Perfect. Right on.
So how do we create healthy fall habits and celebrate good health? So actually I want to answer the next question first. You asked, what are the signs of good health? So
Right.
I would split that into 2 pieces. One of them is your subjective definition of health. What are the things that you value and you think are important? And things that you know are your subjective metrics. And then there's objective information that I would gather as, for example, as a naturopathic doctor, blood work, and I can go into some of those details as well. So I think a good place to start would be just listing, like, what are the things that are good signs of health to me? So I'm going to give some examples because it just kind of it's a good place for other people to jump off of. But
Right.
for me, it's hard to know exactly where to start. I want to feel like I can perform in my day. So I want to feel like I want my energy to be good. I want my focus to be good. If I notice I'm like kind of daydreaming, which isn't a bad thing, but like just not able to focus, I'm feeling tired. Those to me are signs that I need to be focusing on something to support those things. And I can get into what those examples would be. But so energy and focus are definitely signs of good health to me. My posture, I have a long torso. And so it's a lot of work. I have a long neck. My husband always makes fun of me in a nice way, but like in a nice way. He loves my neck.
Right.
But like I feel like it takes a lot for me to like focus on my posture. So if I don't work on strengthening my core, I slouch. And we know from, if you see a chiropractor or an osteopathic practitioner, we know how important it is to be standing straight so that our spine is aligned, so that our nerves can function properly. It makes a huge difference in the way I feel. Confidence. There's actually quite a bit of research on like the power pose. This is why athletes, when they win a race, their hands go up, they're so excited, and it's the power pose. And so when we can be more in that posture more often, we feel more confident. We show up with a little bit more, I'm just going to say the word again, with a little bit more confidence.
Right.
And so when I feel like my digestion is better when my posture is better. So posture for me is another good sign of health. And performance, I said already, energy and focus, but also physically, like, can I go to the park with my son and climb up the play structure with him? Like, does that feel like a really big workout, or does that feel like I can do that pretty easily?
Right.
So being able to keep up with my kids from an physical energy standpoint, and just sort of like a mental energy standpoint, those to me are my metrics of good health.
Absolutely.
And they may be different for you, but those are some examples. Do you have some examples, Joanne?
Yeah. I mean, for myself, just being able to get back out, and you touched on this last time, and it stuck with me so long, but getting back into nature, going for a walk. So somebody who might be struggling with mobility issues or struggling, what is it that you can do, right? Can you get outside? And if you can't get outside, can you get to a window, right?
Yep.
What is that doing to your internal your happy gauge.
Yeah.
I don't know but the feeling, the sense of well-being, that's, I guess, the word I want to use, is your sense of well-being. And again, for me, getting healthy in the fall season really gets back to a sense of accomplishment. It's a time of change, so I pick up little projects, and again, you and I are in different age demographics. So you're playing with kids and I'm playing with grandkids, but
Right.
I think I think it's a wonderful time to sort of ground yourself and reestablish that new routine for fall. And it means getting out, if it means getting out walking, or if it means creating a new habit that keeps you mobile. Mobility is still a really big thing as
Yes.
we age, right? And
Yes.
along with so many other things, just being able to be mobile, even if it's just once around the block, or if it's once around your yard, or getting your laundry done, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on where people are at, right?
Yeah.
That's where I'm feeling.
Yeah. So it sounds like, so mobility, the ability to achieve in your projects, and like a good healthy mental state. Those are the things I heard you say. And then how you achieve those can be very individualized, but those are the things that are good signs of health for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And then to get some objective information, and I won't go into all of these details, but you can talk to your whoever your medical provider is. I will say, if you are seeing an naturopathic doctor, we do dig a little deeper in terms of blood work. It can be really helpful just to have some of those objective pieces so that you can even track that over time. So how's your thyroid functioning? How are your nutrient stores as far as iron, B12, vitamin D? Do you have elevated inflammatory markers? How is your cholesterol? How are you balancing your blood sugar? All of those things are also going to feed into those things I was talking about, and you, in terms of mood, energy, performance, mobility. All of those things give you some objective information. If you're a little confused about, well, I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do in terms of seeking sunlight, moving my body,
Right,
drinking water, and I'm still not feeling great, that's where sometimes those objective pieces can be really helpful. And getting back into routine in the fall is a great time to get back into some of those routines too, like seeing your naturopathic doctor, getting some updated blood work, and then really individualizing your care.
right, absolutely. Do you find, like, for myself, I find that even my food desires change. So for example, now I was just studying with a group called Wild Fit, and it's so interesting because we talk about going back to our, basically our Paleolithic grandfathers and grandmothers who traveled and ate foods as they were plentiful at that season. Right. So now it's true. I'm really finding myself interested in more heartier foods, stocks, broths, those sorts of things. Is that a natural kind of body reaction to the change of seasons, do you find, as a naturopathic?
Absolutely, especially here in Canada, and particularly in Manitoba, we have 4 seasons. And absolutely, I mean, that does go back to genetically what would have been available to us at the time of fall and winter. I mean, we're moving into, there's not going to be as many fresh fruits and vegetables available as we move into the colder months. And so eating cooked foods is a natural kind of progression into these seasons. And if we look at things from an Eastern medicine standpoint, it also, when we're moving into colder months, it's also easier on our digestion to be eating warmer cooked food. So it's like slow cooker stews, like you said, soups, broths. I know we were going to talk a little bit about bones and marrow today, but we'll talk about it next month. But, if you're looking for a good broth, like a really good broth that tastes amazing and also has tons of collagen and gelatin in it, bones and marrow, which is a local company, is an amazing option. I think you still carry that at Colors,
Absolutely.
correct? And we also
Yep.
carry it at Nature Doctors. I think there's many distributors in the city at this point, but that's a great option. You can just drink bone broth too. It's a great, if you don't have a soup every day, having a little bit of broth, and bringing it back to the skin conversation. I mean, this is one of the best things we can do for our skin, is supporting our gut function. And increasing our collagen in our diet helps our hair grow longer. It helps our skin it just age really well. It helps our gut be really healthy so that we're absorbing nutrients really well. So absolutely, that was your next question, or what are some good fall foods? And definitely bone broth would be number one. And then a lot of those like warming spices that we talked about already too, ginger, cinnamon, clove, all of those things that make us feel warm are also warming to the body and help with digestion.
Right, absolutely. And gut health, just to sort of digress, but I always hear the naturopathic doctors at Pure Glow Center talking about gut health and the relationship between gut health and skin, right? So it's an interesting correlation that we need to always keep in mind when we talk about that inside out, outside in type of beauty, is really taking care of understanding what our, what our body's telling us it needs, other than chocolate.
Right.
But
Well, sometimes chocolate.
chocolate's okay, right? But if we want to crave foods that are that our body might be saying this is what our gut needs, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I often actually will explain our gut is like our inside skin.
Really?
I call it our inside skin. We need to heal it just like we would and have a really healthy barrier, just like we need a healthy barrier on our skin. We can think about like one of the most extreme examples of like someone who's had like burns that cover most of their body. Think about how compromised their immune system is at that time when their skin is compromised, because things penetrate into the body that shouldn't. So the same thing can happen inside the gut, right? If it's compromised, it's like the same idea that things are now getting into the body that should not be getting into the body, whether it's pathogens like organisms or toxins that we normally would flush out of our bodies and wouldn't affect us systemically. But if our inside skin isn't intact, that barrier isn't there.
What a great analogy.
It makes it a little easier to conceptualize.
It's a great visual.
I actually, the visual I have in my head, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to describe this properly, but there was like kind of like fun stores, like they used to be called like San Francisco's, those kind of stores that have like those kind of like crazy toy things, like, and at the counter, they would have those toys. It was like a tube and you pick it up and it like keeps falling down and it keeps like going inside out. And do you know what? That's kind of what I think about. That's kind of why we don't actually go inside out, but like if you turned us inside out, like our gut is like our skin. It's our skin in a way.
Right. That is such a great analogy. I have such a great visual on this now that it really does make you think, oh my gosh, you're right. Because if you burned your skin, you'd want to take care of it, and it's irritated, and it's right. And
exactly. We just don't get a chance to see the inside, but it gives us whispers. It tells us.
Right.
And sometimes we wait until it screams.
Yeah. Good point. Very good.
So I'm just going to pull up the hierarchy of needs for myself. So we've talked about food. We've talked about warmth. I want to talk a little bit about the concept of rest, because I feel like it fits. It's going to like segue nicely into our skin conversation.
Right.
Rest. If you're the very basic need of rest, let's do like a hierarchy of just rest is sleep, right? And sleep nowadays, we don't have a ton of respect for the need for our body to sleep. And so if you're not getting good sleep, this is where you need to start in this pyramid of rest. And then I'm going to kind of work our way through a few layers of rest. But respecting a fairly consistent bedtime and consistent wake time, and I call that a sleep frame, so that we are programming our body to know that when sleep is coming and know when it's time to wake up. And that is actually one of the best ways of reprogramming our circadian rhythm and actually improving our energy. And then obviously aiming for 8 hours of sleep. But, even if you aimed for 7, if you had a really good sleep frame, to bed by 10, up by 5 or 6, you would probably have an increase in your energy if you maintain that frame. So that's the first thing. But if we can like bring in the next layer of rest, I would include a lot of self-care in there. And I want to share a personal experience. that happened to me last Friday, actually. I went to Pure Glow and I had a facial with Erica, and she used, I hadn't tried, in a facial context, I hadn't tried the Huna products yet. That's one of the new lines that we have at Pure Glow. And that was a beautiful experience. And it brings in so many of those things that we've already talked about. So it goes from the music that Erica had playing to the dim lights to the aroma that she had in the room. She asked me if it was okay to use lavender. So she added lavender to, the massage and just, the aromatic experience. And then the aromatic experience of all the different products. So Huna uses mostly organic. I mean, I think organic whenever they possibly can, but it's like almost 100% organic, naturally grown herbs that they are growing themselves. And they have such a beautiful aroma in and of themselves. So that really adds to the experience. The experience of touch. Again, I talked about this last time with the haircut. Someone touching your skin and caring for you is a very important, I would say it fits into that belonging and love. I felt connected to another person. And so it really hit a lot of those basic needs, everything from rest to emotional, the emotional experience was amazing. And then that feeling of connection. So to me, I do really focus on my sleep. I feel like my sleep is really good. So the next layer for me was doing some of these self-care pieces. And that was something that I would like to, I hope to continue doing into the fall is keeping that as a regular part of my monthly routine.
Right. Absolutely. Because, I think there's a calming nature that you take to the rest of your day and days after you have de-escalated during a touch therapy like facials, right? I don't know, did you find that it kind of stayed with you for a few days?
Definitely.
And you kind of felt really, you kind of get into that zen again.
Yeah. Well, and then I messaged the team the next day on the Facebook group because I was like, I just need to tell you how amazing I feel and how great my skin looks. And I just wanted to tell somebody because I was feeling good.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was such a positive thing for us all to hear, because in all reality, that's our goal, right? Is to make sure that we give you the most positive experience possible. So you'll see two things that you talked about today are going to be in our promos, and that is Huna and facials. So
there we go.
That part.
So I think we're close. I think just, the last question that you had asked, I think it came up in our Instagram promo for this was, does your skin begin to feel a bit of the summer wear? And so I know for myself, I'm very consistent with my sunscreen. I don't think I had a burn this year, maybe a little like minor on my shoulders, but so that is really important to me. But we do maybe feel a little bit more dehydrated after the summer. So how do we kind of rejuvenate the skin moving into the fall? And number one is hydration.
Right.
So water. It can be warmer water. We're moving into those cold months. Maybe it's warm water. Again, that's one of your basic physiological needs is water. And I mean, how many people do I see that say, when I ask them how much water they drink, I know I don't drink enough water. It's just, I'm busy. I'm never sitting in one place. I can never remember to drink. We need to prioritize water.
Right.
And as we're moving into the colder seasons, like I said, maybe it's room temperature or it's warm water. Hydration also maybe through bone broth. It's another great way to hydrate. We get some good electrolytes when we have bone broth as well. So from an inside approach, I would be definitely focusing on hydration. And from an outside approach, maybe skincare hasn't been a priority for you as you are building back up that foundation of your needs. But even something as simple, and we talked about this in our last Facebook Live, as simple as getting back to washing your face and moisturizing your face every day, twice a day. I think sometimes we can get tired at night and we don't wash our makeup off, or maybe you don't wear makeup, but you still, I don't have time. I'm too tired. I'm just going to slip right into bed. I think most of the time we at least splash some water on our face in the morning, maybe use bar soap, but getting into a routine where we care about our physical bodies too, where we are nourishing it with good products that work on multiple levels, going back to physically feeling good, physically doing well for our skin, smelling good. And so kind of just igniting that sense as well. And then it's just showing our body that we care. And there's something magical that happens when we physically care for our bodies in that way.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think it also really helps to really engage into that full body wellness as well, because our skin is such an outward manifestation of what's going on inside. So that when we start to provide that care, it kind of gives you a little bit of a segue into full body and well-being care. It's one thing to be able to see the care that we do to our or at least I find that when I'm taking care of the outside of my body, I'm more apt to take care of the inside of my body. Right?
Yeah, definitely. So, and vice versa.
And vice versa. Absolutely. They go hand in hand together. Right. So
yeah,
absolutely. And I agree with you. I just find that cleansing twice a day just really gets you, one, gets you ready for the day, and two, gets you ready for for rest. So
exactly. Yeah. So we've touched on those physiological needs like food, water, warmth, rest. We've touched on safety needs in terms of like health and well-being. And we've touched on the belonging and love needs in terms of relationships and feeling connected. So those are some hopefully simple, tangible ways of starting to rebuild our pyramid of well-being. And so we can move back into some of those deeper layers of personal growth again someday.
And I love what you said. It's hopeful. And I think if that's the emotion that we can at least go into the fall with, Dr. Erin, hopeful is, I think, is a really important, it's really important to hang on to, right?
Definitely.
And because we are going through times that are changing. So if I could do that, that would be, that's my goal, is to remain hopeful. Okay.
So I have made you co-host, so we can share.
So I'm going to get into sharing my screen so I can talk to you about the promos. As you know, for 72 hours after we go live, we offer several promos, and some of them are service promos, some of them are product promos. And so, as Dr. Erin talked about, we have Huna is our newest addition to the Pure Glow lineup. And so I'm going to just quickly pull up my screen, and here we go. So this is our fall bodies, and that's what we've just had the pleasure of listening to Dr. Erin with, and we will record. This is recorded, so we'll be playing it in our on our Pure Glow YouTube channel. So you can, if you want to share this with a friend, by all means, this is a great way. I think it's a great gift to give somebody who's maybe struggling at this point in time. Maybe the gift of some of the ideas that we're presenting here will give you some ideas. So first off, our Pure Glow store has been launched in the last 2 months. And so you can go to our Pure Glow store by going to www.pureglowskin.com. That's our website, and there will be a store and a booking site, so you can go to either of those places. One, the store, obviously, to purchase and take advantage of some of the promos today, and then you can go to the book side in order to book some of the promos. And our fall promo, of course, is Fall 10, and so that's going to give you some ideas about what you can take advantage of this fall. So this is Huna. Huna is, again, a very natural, organic, botanical based, but based also in science. So what I love about Huna, and Heather is the CEO, owner, founder, chemist, botanist, and herbal cosmetic designer, scientist. She is a Canadian woman. She's actually a Manitoba-based scientist. She took her degree at University of Manitoba. She's now since moved to BC because of their growing season, but also we still have their fields growing in Manitoba. So Huna is one of our newest additions. And one of the things that we want you to do is to be able to go to our store, check out all the Huna products that we have, and use the promo code fall10. And we want to give you 10% off anything you want to purchase this month. And if you order over $100, you get free shipping. But you can also do curbside pickup. So this is a great, we're so excited to have them in. And I think we'll probably have Heather as one of our guests in the next weeks ahead. And as Dr. Aaron put, having a facial is just like having a hug. So we're gonna put our facials on for $50 for the next 72 hours. Give us a call, or go to our website and go into book and put in the promo code fall10, because you would not only will get the facial, $100 facial for $50, which is half price, of course, but you're also going to receive 15% off any of the products that you use during your facial. So what a great opportunity to not only feel great, but also get some great products into your hands. And of course, we are going to continue to offer our de-stress acupuncture, this is something we brought into our discussion in our last Facebook Live. But I have to tell you, we had such a great response, Dr. Aaron, to both the facials and the acupuncture from a de-stress perspective, that we wanted to run it again. And that is $125 a treatment is our regular price, but we're going to offer 3 treatments for $300. So that's a great saving of $75. And again, if you book this promo, you're going to get a facial for only $40. We're going to drop the price even further. And then of course you'll enjoy the discount on all the products. So that promo code again is fall10. So thank you very much. I'm going to go back. Thank you very much, Dr. Aaron. I hope everybody has an opportunity to at least go visit our store, and as well check out our Pure Glow website. It's all about who we are and beauty from the inside out, from a natural wellness aspect. And we're so excited and glad to have Dr. Aaron as a part of our team, guiding us and keeping us focused each and every month with a great new topic. Join us next month for a brand new, watch our Pure Glow Facebook page, and we always announce well in advance what our new topic is going to be. But again, we'll be sharing this live video through our YouTube channel. So thank you very much, Dr. Aaron, for your insight and dragging us back to basics. I love that. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's
where we are.
Yeah, that's as basic as we get, right? So thank you.
You're welcome, Joanne. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye.